It's 8 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
It's
Oh, it's 8
6:59.
o'clock.
All right, 1 minute.
It's 8 o'clock, okay. This happened last time.
Well, if we wait a few months, then it will be the right time.
Which true?
The diff.
That's true.
Okay. Tell me when it's 7. I have no time on this. Oh, yes, I do.
It's still 6:59.
6:59.
Is the wave still on the door down?
Yes.
This is the
It's
longest
a long minute.
Oh,
Meditate, meditate, meditate.
it is now 7 o'clock. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting of Thursday, November 5th, 2020. All participation is by remote access only. For audio participation, call-in can be accessed by any of these 3 numbers, 425-436-6308. Long-distance charges could apply 425-436-6338 and 425-436-6300. Access code 538960 pound. Follow the instructions for the calling service. For video participation, https://join.freeconferencecall.com/Scituate1 and follow the instructions. So, it is now 7 o'clock. I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Ms. Pritchard. Mr. Burbine.
Aye.
This is how it's starting. Ms. Burbine.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. Bornstein.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard.
Thank you.
Mr. McLean, are you on the line?
It's
I
okay.
don't know.
Okay, we have a continued public hearing, site plan administrative review, and special permit for density and tandem parking in the Village Center and Neighborhood District, Greenbush Village Center Subdistrict, Greenbush Gateway District, GDG-GVC, 18 Ford Place. All right, gentlemen. Applicant, has anything new come about?
2 things. Attorney Robert Galvin for Mr. McGill. I had drafted about 60 days ago a easement agreement with the abutting property owner. I waited to finalize that till I actually had the proper reference in the plan. I thought I had sent it over to Ms. Joseph. I hadn't, so I sent it to her today. But that's a kind of a contingent arrangement. First of all, he's got to agree to it, and he hasn't yet. And then second of all, he'll have to come back to the planning board for a modification for his permit. But in the event that he does that, I've already created the reciprocal easement agreement that would allow us to have the shared access or common driveway. So I sent that over. Last week on Wednesday, I think we got a revised comment letter from Mr. Cheshire. Mr. Grady, who's the applicant's engineer, is here tonight. I think he can answer a couple of questions. Ms. Joseph was kind enough to provide me with a copy of a draft motion that was potentially going to be offered by the planning staff for the board's consideration. I provided her comments earlier this morning, and I know she was able to incorporate some of them, but not all of them. And I'm happy to go over them when it's an appropriate time for the planning board, because I do have a couple of comments. We did receive a copy of a DPW estimate for the work on the property off of the Driftway for about $22,000. We think it's slightly more than ours.
No.
It's less.
No.
No, it's the other way around.
All right.
Well, we
we have 23 light items, he has 11, so
Ah, well.
he's also, if you leave out scope, it definitely gets cheaper.
All right, so, but that, we do have that. You know, I don't know how you want me to proceed on the motion aspect and the comments on that, but
Right,
I have a few if you want me to.
All right, we'll hold that in abeyance. If Mr. Grady would like to make some comments
Yep.
at this time?
We received the special permit draft and the review letter. We addressed the outstanding plan comments that were on there. We made some updates to the erosion control plan to show some stockpiles. The majority of the materials for the construction are going to need to be trucked off-site. There's only a small area we're going to be able to stockpile. So it'll be minimal excavation, stockpile, get it in a truck and move it off-site, bring it in, drop it, and move it off-site. It's not like you can bring a big bulk of material to the site. The contractor's obviously going to know that because of the site constraints.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, we haven't received any new plans or any new information from Grady on this project, so I just want to make that clear to the board.
When did we receive this
I
draft?
received, the letter, the draft that had those items in it.
11/3/20.
We sent you a new set of plans, I dropped them off 2 weeks,
Oh, well, we got that, but we didn't
Okay,
get,
so
we didn't have any of the new stuff on stockpiles on construction.
No.
you just gave me this.
So
I just got this.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm
So-
correcting his statement.
Okay.
that's-
I didn't say I did it last week or anything.
When did you do it?
We have
I
it.
received this 11/3 and I updated it today. So a day and a half later. These are really punch list items. The overall design has been in place and has been reviewed. This is the stockpiles, for example, is a construction phase, not necessarily a permitting phase. We're not going to stockpile on other people's property. There's only so many places where we can stockpile. So I drew an area on the plan to the back right of the building. This location here. So the stockpiles are small. It's just how the construction has to proceed.
You just might want to let Mr. Pritchard know what you're looking at.
We haven't, we just bought these, yeah, like I said.
Okay, all right, time out.
Yep.
Time out. All right, you have a seat, and we will talk about this in a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Sure. Mr. Chesia?
Oh, hold on a second.
John?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Do you have anything
Okay.
you want to add here, sir?
So, I haven't seen any of the stuff that they were just talking about, the newer information. I did write a letter, dated October 27th. And I have seen some of the information Karen has drafted and some of her comments and questions. I think from an engineering point of view, there's not a lot left to do. There's a few details that I recommend to be added, but, that's up to the board whether you want details of the fencing. They've, revised some of the major things, which was the inconsistency between the architectural plans and the site plans. They eliminated the pervious pavers, and now I think the board should sort of review their proposal. They have a bituminous concrete, paved driveway that extends through a fence and becomes a patio. It's all one, be all one thing, bituminous with a berm and a catch basin at the corner of the patio. There's a fence across the pavement to define the patio from the driveway. To me, that, I don't know if that's something that the board really would like to see them do for something like this. A patio that water runs through to a catch basin doesn't seem all that attractive personally, but that's your discretion to look at that aspect. You should look at the landscaping, obviously, that's not within my purview of what they have comments, but they're not necessarily within the expertise. That, as far as the drainage and those issues go, I agree that there's a lack of an adequate erosion control plan. The one item that I think the board needs to maybe think about, that I had in my comment letter, was that under the DEP handbook, you're supposed to have subsurface systems a certain distance, or, systems should be certain distances from foundations. I mean, this is a small project, it's not an enormous one, but they are within 14 feet of the abutted garage with a drainage system. I mean, that's probably a slab, it's not like a foundation with a cellar, which might be more critical, because water would get into it potentially, but that was a comment that was out there. The plans that I reviewed had a pervious paver walkway from the driveway to the front door. An email came in that said they're going to change that to regular paving. That actually isn't going to change the drainage. It's only a couple hundred square feet, and it still would work as far as that goes. And I had a comment in terms of maintenance about cleanup. The pipes that go from the catch basin at the back of the patio has bends in it, and typically if there's a bend, it's an area that could potentially clog up, so you want to have access to that, and it's not a 12-inch pipe. Usually you have a manhole at every change of direction. This is a smaller pipe, I think it's an 8-inch plastic pipe. So you could put cleanups, I guess, but they should be at everything. And that's pretty much it, unless you have any specific questions for me. I mean, there's obviously things the board needs to review relative to the public benefit, things like that, but those are other issues.
Okay, thank you, John. Steve?
I have a question for John. Could you just elaborate a little bit on this DEP handbook that you just mentioned and the separation from foundations? What's the requirement?
So it's a little vague. It's a little vague in this case because subsurface structures don't have specific listings because they're a big variable. But most of the time, when you read the handbook, when it's a reference to subsurface structure, like what they're proposing, is closest to an infiltration trench. And an infiltration trench has like a 20-foot setback from a foundation. Now, typically, if you have a foundation with a cellar, and you put an infiltration system near that foundation, and you put all this water in the ground, it could go into the cellar. And especially the closer you are. It's a slab-on-grade garage, so it may have a lesser chance of causing a problem. But I just wanted to highlight that was something that was in my letter that, you can think about. I personally don't think there's a huge impact in this particular case. It's a slab-on-grade garage. But if it were a house with a foundation and a cellar, I would say yes, it shouldn't be that close.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I comment on that?
Mr. Brady?
The BMP for subsurface drainage systems says the setback should be between 10 feet and 100 feet. It's 10 feet to a slab where the water is below the slab and it's not going to jump up and flood the slab or have any impacts to the building. We design drainage systems within 10 feet of slab foundations regularly.
That garage is coming down as well.
And the
It's kind of like a moot point because it's going away. Yeah.
the soils here are very well drained.
Okay, thank you. Karen?
All right, so I sent the board a list of what I saw was outstanding items. I will go through them, and many of them all of them have been incorporated in some way, shape, or form in a draft motion. First of all, the Design Review Committee recommendations. They responded individually to me that they felt that the applicant technically complied with the recommendations for the roof by removing the prefab trusses, which caused the building to be higher. However, the roof is still a little strange with some flat roof sections and negative pitch. It's not a traditional stick-built roof, but it's more appropriate to the neighborhood than the last revision. Additionally, the mass is large and proportionally out of scale with the neighborhood. The planning board should decide if additional density is worth the added mass as a special permit is requested for more units than allowed. If the planning board allows, then they should be vigilant about follow-through on the applicant's commitment. Snow storage. There's no snow storage on site. It's all going to have to be trucked away. There is a finding of fact and a condition related to this. The public realm improvement, they have asked, I provided a plan and a cost estimate. John looked at the cost estimate and thought some areas were a little high. DPW thought that DPW came in today with an estimate that is considerably lower than the applicant's estimate. They have indicated that there's no permits required for it. We did receive permission from the town administrator today for that they are allowed to do work on the town's property. They have put things in this park that we don't want. We don't want perennials. We don't want ground cover because DPW will not maintain them. We do want, excuse me, another tree and some more guardrail. So the board is going to have to decide if this public benefit is worthy of 3 additional units. The board is under no obligation to grant the density bonus, and the board needs to have a conversation on that. Construction plan. Construction plans are very important in Scituate. Nothing new was provided. I did condition some of that stuff for prior to endorsement, but Town of Scituate takes its construction plans very seriously. Drainage. John has basically said the drainage is satisfactory. I did run that footing by Rob Vogel, who said it was pretty much okay because they're gonna stamp it. Some architect is gonna stamp this with the drainage close to the foundation, and so he's okay with that. The O&M plan. The O&M plan for construction needs to be coordinated with the plans. Outdoor amenity space. The outdoor amenity space is 21% of the site. There's a patio, but they're proposing now the patio is bituminous concrete. I think that bituminous concrete is not really acceptable, but that's up to the board to decide. Surety for the project. I recommend surety for the project. Site plan approval allows for surety. Surety for the density bonus, we recommend that be done too. Access, they want it approved essentially 2 ways. One, with a shared driveway and without a shared driveway. I just got the easement this morning, and I would recommend the condition that on the endorsed plans, more grading and spot grades and drainage be shown. Pervious pavement, we got to figure out if it's there or not. 760.7, that parking requirement, I believe the board talked about that at one meeting and you decided it didn't apply because it was it was a residential use. Emergency vehicle access, They now have a 3.5-foot path in between the cars and 3.5 in between at the back of the building so that there can be emergency access. The fire department's going to require that the 20-foot wide access drive be marked as a fire lane so there's no parking in it. Parking is 1.5 spaces per unit, which is what is required in the VCN district. Some of you have voiced there's no visitor parking, but the point of the 1.5 spaces is that it's close to public parking. Water supply, they indicated that 550 gallons was the projected use. That's 110 gallons per day per unit. Landscaping, they have 6 trees. They're removing Norway maples. The board is going to have to decide if the trees, they're not within 10 feet of the parking. I personally didn't see that as an issue. Site distance, it's shown on the plan, but there's no AASHTO numbers. Lighting, it's small-scale residential lighting. There's no street lights being provided. There are no street lights on McDonald Terrace, and many of the street lights on Ford Place are not working, but that's not the applicant's responsibility. And the condominium documents have been supplied and have been reviewed by town council, and the changes have already been completed. So those are the rundown of the issues that I saw after the last meeting, and some of them require your input tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to open, excuse me, yes.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes,
Or
yes.
do I have to, okay, I didn't know if on the motion that was sent, on number 7, the following items need to be submitted or added to plans prior to endorsement. We are providing, tonight we brought with us and we'll submit them. We do have the pervious pavement detail. We have the 6-foot stockade fence detail. We have the stockpile detail. We have the benches that you mentioned on the paver, on the patio. And I don't know, the patio, I'm fine, I'd rather do pavers, a paver patio. I think that's where, whatever, I don't need to have it concrete. And then, and as we know as systems go in, we can update the operation and maintenance plan if there's any need for it to be updated. So those things are all, obviously we brought with us tonight. So we'll update those so we can submit those tomorrow, pending any.
All right.
All right?
Okay, I'll open it up.
Are those referenced in the drawings we reference right now? Or do we have to update drawings?
We have to update the drawings.
You have to update the drawings.
We received the comments on the 3rd,
Yeah.
so 2 days ago.
All right, Steve, do you have anything you want to add to this?
And it says prior to endorsement.
Steve,
Yes.
would you like to comment?
No, I think Karen kind of walked through the list. I think we really need to sort of address these open issues.
Okay.
I tend to agree that we don't want an asphalt patio. That there should be a paver type patio or something, but it's really a patio.
I'm not sure if you can see the updated plan here.
Is this the one they had last time?
No,
Or-
initially, we had the driveway going all the way to the back of the building off of Ford Place, and we had the fence separating the patio. We just modified the note that this is, the rear patio section is to be done with patio stone and not asphalt. And we showed a couple of benches.
Steve, are you all set for the moment?
Yeah, I can see
All right.
whatever they're talking about anyway.
All right. Rebecca?
So, I guess the snow storage,
There is no snow storage.
so
They
can
have
we
to
address
take-
that or not?
Well, they have to take it away,
Okay. so
It
that's
has to
what we're
be-
gonna do. Okay.
moved, off-site. Patty?
Did you guys Just one question, did somebody look at the landscaping plan? Landscaping.
In the past, we've already kind of gone through
And
that.
Ben will comment on that, I'm sure.
No, I don't,
You have no comment?
no, we kind of went through that in past
I looked at it
meetings.
as well, I
Yeah.
don't have a problem with the landscaping plan.
They changed the trees, like, we did this, yeah.
We did that.
I was talking about for the public benefit thing.
Oh,
Oh,
I looked at that,
We revised that plan too to eliminate the perennials and extend the guardrail and get rid of the, whatever it was.
Oh, okay.
all right. Patty?
That submitted then?
no, that, we
No.
have not seen that.
We haven't seen it.
We just got those comments 2 days ago and we just revised them today.
You know what, that we need to stop with, we just got the comments
Right.
yesterday.
Well, it's just clarifying why they don't have them. They're asking why they don't have them. I think
All
that's,
right,
we're just
Mr.
clarifying.
Gill, that's, please.
Okay.
Patty?
Mr. McGill, when did you submit this project to us?
1840? I don't know, it was year, well, which time I submitted it? May 12th?
May 12th, yeah.
That's the,
So it just seems like we keep, every single meeting, we're asking for more and more. I understand you're a professional, this should be kind of business for you as usual. no?
no, I mean, usually it's one or two revisions, but with your, you've had several bylaw changes, and that had delayed the submittal, redoing it, we lost units, then there's numerous changes, comments, then there's, it's like this, and I'm gonna say it again, they keep getting dragged out because changes keep coming up, and we don't have time to react to get them submitted in time before deadline, so it just keeps going, so it's a little unusual. And like you said, I've been doing this for 25 years. So, I mean, it's not, I'm just saying that it just doesn't seem to keep going. I know with the bylaws, it's not your fault with the bylaw changes and everything, but it did get dragged out quite a bit,
You all set?
No.
Ben?
I don't really have anything outside of what we need to go through anyways, so.
The comment I would make is basically, the scale of this building is huge. I mean, it is going, which according to the village district, but in 750.5A, scale of the building, it depends on its overall size and mass, its relationship to the open space around it, and the size of its doors, windows, porches, balconies. It gives the building presence. And this is just, you as a matter of right have the ability to do 2 units. And you have chosen to go forward with an additional 3. So, it's just, I really think that it's big. I understand, fully understand, that there will be other changes in Greenbush and that this is the first. I still think that it's pushed out to the limits. It's 10 feet from one end, 21 feet from the other side, right on the sidewalk, which is viable, but I just have concerns about it. That's just my opinion.
But the project behind me that's already been approved is larger than mine.
Well,
That's,
that's not neither here nor there. I am talking about this project.
So,
But it's the massing and scale of the neighborhood, and if you've approved a large building or a larger project behind, one would think that this would then bear some proportion to that
well,
project.
can I mention, so
Yeah.
I took all these pictures.
Yeah.
So this is what the neighborhood looks like right now.
But that's how it was developed under the old bylaw or before the bylaw.
I understand that, but I think what Ian and I are both getting at is that when I sit on the end of Ford Place and I look down, right now I see a bucolic neighborhood, which I know is going to change, with this huge building at the end. Now, I know that you have the right to ask for a maximum density, and we have the right to deny that maximum density based on what we think is right for our town. I understand for you that this is a business, and I get that completely, But our job as a planning board is to do what's best for our town and not to construct something that we feel individually or as a group. And whether we have buildings behind or above, this is right on, not a main street, but it's gonna be a pretty busy street down there pretty soon. With a lot of additional traffic, I have issues about traffic coming out to Countryway as well. And I'm going to agree with Ian that this is a very big building for the square space that it is on.
But there's been no objections from any of the neighbors or town or comments or anything.
That's our job.
Can I respond just to that point? When you look at under the design standards for what a multifamily dwelling looks like under the bylaw, there's a building that looks just like this proposed. And I certainly don't dispute that that is the neighborhood. But that's the neighborhood as it was developed before zoning or after zoning. And now you have a new overlay district here, or this village center and neighborhood district, where the express purpose of that district is to encourage high-quality housing production for a variety of age groups, housing types, and income ranges. That's not what's there now. But this is the bylaw now. And in order to encourage the type of housing that your bylaw now encourages developers to propose, these are the types of projects that you're going to be asked to consider.
I could not agree with you more, sir. However, my concern is that this has been maxed out. Maxed out. That 5 units instead of 2, I could possibly deal with 4, 2 extra. But 5 is just sort of shoehorning another one in. But I know, and I agree with you, the neighborhood is changing. This is right on the corner. There's going to be something behind it. Somebody else is coming forward with another item further down on McDonald Terrace. Yes. But this is right there at the corner. Right there on Ford Place. Mr. Grady.
I just wanted to comment on the photos and the abutting development. The other thing that's adjacent to here is the train station. I think part of the idea for this zoning change is that it's adjacent to the station and that you want the density there. The other component of that train station that's not shown on the photos is a giant retaining wall that's at the end of the road. I believe this road is set up for density now and more of a 40R access to the train station type development, and I think that's the purpose of it. And I think Mr. McGill has done his best to meet the bylaw and to try and fit it into the neighborhood.
Well, I'm giving you my opinion.
I understand.
And one of the things that we have to keep in mind, 40R, which has been suggested in our master plan, is a long way out until we can get our infrastructure dealt with.
Yeah, I just said type.
It is just...
But the capacity for the 5 units has already been...
I understand that, sir. I understand. So, that's my 2 cents on this one. All right, do we have anybody out there that wants to comment on this before I move forward?
So you want to go to Q&A?
Yes, please.
Did you want to take the comments that I had on the language now, or do you want to wait till?
Q&A session has started.
As we go through it.
As we go through it.
Okay.
We have one comment.
You need to say that.
Mary, this is Becky Sylvia, 22 Ford Place. We are a neighbor, and we actually have had concerns. We've been at all of these meetings. I agree with Karen and Ann. The project is just too big for the amount of square footage of that lot. There's no business parking. It'd be foolish to think no one in that community is ever going to not have a visitor. They have an allotment of the 1.5 cars. Most people have 2 cars drop working for a house. That building is going to be so large that there'll be no ambient light for any of the other little branches that still exist in that area, the small family homes that are still there. This is sort of bringing South Boston to Scituate. Scituate's a nice, small, seaside town. We're not South Boston. We don't want something built to the edges of the property. There's no, walkway, there's no street lights, there'll be no point there, which is what Forest Place has been up until this point. I think there's a lot to talk about still, and I hate to rush this. And I know they would say that it hasn't been rushed and that they keep having to come back to meeting, but I think there's so much to talk about that that's why we have to kind of go over these things. I just think that the project is too big for the square footage of the lot. If it were smaller and there were more space, then I think people would be less inclined to be concerned about it.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. All right, is there anyone else?
I don't believe, I think that's it.
That's it? Okay. Thank you very much.
Q&A session is over.
All right, Karen?
Well, I mean, I guess it would be up to the board to decide if they wanted to proceed. I did prepare a draft motion, and if the board would want to proceed with the draft motion.
How does the board want to proceed with the draft motion? Please tell me. Steve?
Well, it sounds to me like there are multiple issues here,
Yes.
but it sounds like the one of the primary issues is just one of scale, right? And we should, if we think it's worth discussing that before we go to a motion, we should probably do that. Because it's going to have to be addressed in the motion, right?
Correct.
Correct.
And so I guess the question is, I mean, I tend to agree with the applicant, I don't know if it's the applicant or the applicant's attorney, that the new zoning bylaw is encouraging this kind of density. And obviously we're not required as a planning board to approve, more density than we think is appropriate. But it seems to me that the bylaw that we set up for this particular area is intended to encourage density, intended to encourage access, transit-oriented development, basically. So, we are kind of at what I think is a change in approach. It's a change in approach that was approved by, at town meeting for this particular area. And this is going to be one of those areas that, that is a kind of a key commercial area, as well as residential area for the town in the future. We don't have many of those, right? So I think we should be careful with just to say that, well, it doesn't match the scale that was developed, when the subdivision was, it wasn't even a subdivision, when the housing was developed there before, because we are dealing with kind of a new set of zoning requirements and zoning, sort of, how would you say it? We've zoned it to change the way we approach things in this particular area. And I know it's a difficult challenge here, but we should figure out how we are going to address it in keeping with the new zone bylaw. And yes, I don't know if that means we need to look at a broader area besides just the site plan for this particular house, but or particular development, whether we need some kind of sort of broader look at it. But it does feel to me like we've set up the the town has set up the zoning bylaws to encourage this kind of going forward development, to provide additional housing, to provide housing close to the train station in particular, and to provide mixed-use development as well.
You know, Steve, for the sake of discussion, I agree with what you're saying. My biggest concern here, and I understand, you know, we all worked on this zoning initiative, is it's in one sense overkill. I mean, he's allowed by right in this district 2 units, and he is going forward with an additional 3 units. So the scale is, who is to say, larger than it could or should be? I'm just throwing that out to you for discussion.
I don't know if it could, because, you know, the zoning bylaws allow us to provide, you know, bonus housing, and in fact, I think part of it is sort of targeted at making sure we can continue to provide housing, more dense housing, if you will, particularly in the, you know, in the Greenbush area, where people can take advantage of the train, right?
As long as the train keeps running.
You know, so the issue, maybe let me try to paraphrase your issue then, is that while the zoning bylaw may allow for greater scale, you think this has gone beyond what the right scale should be on this property. And I guess I don't know how to do that and say this is the right scale and this is the wrong scale. You know, what will define what is good and what isn't good? And I think we owe that to the applicant to really try to articulate that, right?
Okay. All right. Mr. McGill.
I don't know how to answer that question. That's my problem.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer it either.
You know, and they're
I'll take a crack at it.
all of the setbacks and all of that, which is what the zoning is providing for. So it seems to me that you know, they're within the realm of what can be done.
All right.
And it's just you know, whether there's some modified version of what they presented here that is a better scale than what they have now. I think it's probably, I know we're sort of struggling with this new bylaw a little bit, but it's probably kind of late in the game to be talking about sort of rescaling things. But you know, it's an important discussion, and we should probably figure out where we want to land on it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Galvin?
So I'm not denying that this is a unusual large project for this area. But I can tell you that we're trying to offer a different type of housing. We've met all of the setback requirements. We actually exceed them in most cases. We're less tall than we could be. As a matter of fact, we took very much to heart what the design review board said. We originally came up with a plan that looked like this, and they didn't like the roof line, and they wanted us to change it. And they wanted a more traditional gable-styled roof, and we did that. There is a small section that's flat.
One of the board members suggested, could we do a flat roof to bring it down? So we did a flat roof in the center, where you can't see from the street, to actually lower it another almost 4 feet.
Right. I mean, that was all designed to reduce the building height, which the design review board said, hey, look for ways to reduce it. So we did. You know, we're trying to add 5 units. This is high quality development. And I know it's new, and I know it might be intimidating and even scary, but this is a responsible developer who develops high quality work. These are the types of units that people will purchase right away. It's walkable to the train, it's walkable to recreational amenities, so you don't have to put those types of things on property. And it is the type of development that is permitted in this particular district. And I think when you're meeting the setbacks, you're lower than the height, and you're proposing the type of housing that the new bylaw is designed to encourage, and it's going to be less large than the project behind it. I think it's fair to ask for the development of 5 units. You know, Mr. McGill and I have talked about reducing the scope. This has been a tremendously expensive project for him. And I know that maybe that doesn't mean a lot, but it really is economically important for him to have this 5th unit, or we would toss it away in a minute. You know, if you don't approve it, or you approve it with 4, then we'll have to look at our options, and we'll do the best we can do. But we're trying to stay within the confines of a bylaw, and yes, we're asking for those 5 units, because we don't think that the massing and scale is inconsistent with the new bylaw. We think this is the type of project you're going to see more frequently here, and this will probably be smaller, because I think if we had a larger lot, we could go up to 24 units per acre, and that would be significantly more dense here. And that would come with also another public realm benefit, but, you know, we had a real hard time finding a public realm benefit that was good at all here. And you remember we started with just with money, because the commission couldn't even tell you whether they would ever do it. And we switched to making the improvements because there was a sense of the board that we actually had to do some work. And, you know, I did engage the town administrator to get an approval to do that work. If you don't like it and you want us to tweak it, absolutely fine, we'll do it. But I'm concerned that you're going to have other projects in this area, including potentially other neighbors on Ford Place, and they might have bigger lots and they want greater density. And where are you going to find the public realm benefits for them?
Well, I think what we're going to try and do is rather change it from the public realm, like a park or whatever, and put together, probably the mitigation would go into, for sake of discussion, a sidewalk fund.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
And frankly, I would prefer to do that.
Yeah.
And if we have to change the bylaw so that we can.
Well, there are plenty of public benefits to be had. There are projects to be had. It's just that I think it came about a little untimely for the town, and the town has to get on board that they have to, when they're asked about a public benefit, they have to tell you.
Right, they have to step up to the plate.
They have to step up to the plate.
Which
but there
they
are
haven't.
public benefits to be had in this town, and some of them are subjects.
And, I mean, a fund, another reason to fund is, I mean, I'd love to do just a fund, because, you know, it costs $2,000 just to do the design, the engineering for the thing. So if there's a fund, that money's going directly in, and not money that potentially is wasted because something doesn't get approved. The other thing I would like to add on housing is, the reason that the building is built the way it is the last 30 units I've sold are mostly to downsizers, people on the South Shore. Even coming out of the city, you have a lot of people who've been living in their houses for 30 years, kids have left, there's nowhere to downsize in these communities. And they're selling those houses and they have nowhere to go. We're seeing a lot of people have moved to Pembroke and places like that, and a lot of those folks who I've sold it to, it's first floor living, whether it's going up one flight of stairs, but once you're in the unit, it's all first floor living. The downstairs 2 units, all first floor living. And it's allowing a lot of people who are selling these large houses to stay in their community, to stay on the South Shore without moving farther west. You know, and so that's why to keep, those are the people who I'm targeting to move into this, because.
Yeah, we've had this discussion in the past. So what does, Karen?
So I think that you've hit upon the first part of this conversation. The second part of the conversation is that, yes, the building, the building is at the minimum setback. There's a minimum and maximum setback. The building is at the minimum setback. They have every right to do that.
Okay.
But, so the board has to decide, is the public realm benefit worthy of the added density? You've talked about the mass of the building. Now you have to talk about the other half, I think, before
we go any further.
Before you go any further. Is everybody happy with that, etc.?
Could I just one?
I'm happy.
And I know it's not a traditional, but one would think that the public benefit could also include providing this type of housing in this area. And I know that maybe doesn't have a monetary value to you, but I think it might to the people that are interested in buying these units.
So one thing, because I was kind of just didn't really find a place to say it, but one of the things I've been thinking about this project from the beginning when going for the 3 additional units by special permit, because I tend to agree with Attorney Galvin, also with Steve, and I'm a big fan of smart growth, transit-oriented development, all that. I'd much rather see this type of project adding 5 units than tearing down old-growth woods in the West End and putting in a subdivision, for instance, because I care about the future and things like that, and sustainability. So I like this stuff. However, in reviewing the bylaw and really thinking about, because I was involved in the promulgation of those new rules, like what would really hit the nail on the head here, and it's kind of corollary to the point you're bringing up of what is of housing as a public realm benefit, is like I would have loved to see 4 units at market rate, and I would love to see 1 affordable unit. I know our bylaw doesn't require that for this size of development. If I had my way, I would like to make a revision to the bylaw at some point, because as you guys know, every time we add 5 units, our ratio to getting on 40B goes further and further out of whack, because that's 5 on one side and 0 on another. So no matter how many 40Bs we add or affordable units we add, we're still getting deeper in the hole. So that's kind of how I view these projects, is like if there's a way that we can somehow add in affordable units into these denser housing developments, that's kind of really dials in what we're going for in the bylaw, and also could be interpreted as getting towards that public realm benefit as it applies to housing. But I don't want to get too far off topic, but just wanted to say that.
I would add to that. I mean, I think one of the reasons why is there's a threshold to affordables. So, like, just to hook up these units, it's over $100,000 just in the sewer and the water fee. Then there's the public realm benefit and all that. By the time you end up, and the whole planning process and permitting, by the time you get to that point, you can't afford to put in an affordable unit and in a small project. That's why they have I think it's the 8-unit start. Then you can start.
Yeah, and
start justifying it, But I'm.
Rebecca, could we?
I don't know if we have to do a bylaw change, but if you took, maybe he can't put it in, but if you put money aside and eventually a unit can go in. I know that the Housing Trust has a property that they would love to put 2 townhouses in, but they don't have the money to do that. So that would be a public benefit if people put money towards it.
Yeah, I think we have to probably have a meeting at some point to talk about these funds and how we can kind of get in. I don't want to
do it.
Yeah,
which unfortunately you can't be the guinea pig for this.
Right.
I've been the guinea pig.
So.
But I'll respond to the applicant's point. I fully noted, but my point is just more philosophical in nature.
Yeah.
I understand there's a financial and economic component to everything, so I get that, but I just was kind of throwing out the more, I guess, I don't know how to explain it, but.
This is Steve, and I agree with you that affordable housing is something we should aspire to. I kind of like the idea that Rebecca was talking about in terms of creating a fund that could help support that, even for projects that that don't have any affordable housing themselves. That could be a pretty good public benefit to contribute. I don't think a project like this could pay for the acquisition, but it certainly could contribute to something like that.
I'm fine with doing.
The benefits here, knowing that it was a fairly sort of scraping the bottom of the barrel, if you will, to get a public benefit that we could actually get done here. You know, I would say that an alternative could be to make a defined contribution to a fund like that. Problem may be at this point is that we don't have the mechanisms set up to do that. But that's probably something we should really think about as we go forward here.
Is there a ways that that it can be part of the conditions in there that I say, take like the $20,000 and put it towards a fund that's earmarked, that's going to be, I guess, developed or set up over the next, it may not be set up right now, but by the time the project's done in 6-8 months or whatever, that project could be in place and that 20,000 could go towards that fund.
I don't think the board can require it, but we can offer it and you can accept it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking is that could be an alternative.
Yes.
Kind of approach, right? And
Yeah.
who knows if we can get that set up in time to make it.
We can make it happen.
I don't even know if there
We
are
have an
legal
affordable housing
impediments
trust.
to doing it.
We have,
I'm pretty sure.
Steve,
I'm pretty
we,
sure from a mitigation point of view, you can offer it as public benefit.
Right.
And
we have the housing trust,
and
and we'll figure that out. That's the least of it. And I want 25, I don't want 20. You were already going to spend 54,000.
Yeah, but I was gonna have my kid, when they're working his allowance off, raking and planting bushes.
Child labor, no.
I got, that's fine, if 25 will do it, then I'm in 25 in the fund.
I don't think we can go forward with that tonight. I don't have the opinion of town council
Okay,
that
all right.
setting up something like that is legal.
Legitimate, okay.
I mean, I have to talk to all the people
here's what
here.
I'm
I have a town council.
Here's what I'm
Yes, Steve.
is that we stick with the public benefit that we've defined, but we add a clause that says, in the alternative, at the planning board's discretion, if you will, we could, if we were able to create a fund, we could shift that public benefit, to be a $25,000, donation or whatever to the fund, right? So it could be set up as an either or and give us options basically, because nobody's going to go run out after we approve this and start the work on the on the public benefit immediately anyway, right?
Right. Mr. Galvin.
So
That could give us some alternatives.
I know,
As long as the
I don't want to.
applicant is willing to consider both of those, then we could plug it in.
So I know I'm not Situate's town council, and I don't pretend to give you advice that you shouldn't have verified by your own attorney, but I am town council in 4 communities. I represent 2 public corporations and the Southfield Redevelopment Authority, and we do know a little bit about development. And your bylaw is not set up that you can demand this, but if we offer it to you, you can accept it. And we can't contest it, even if it was illegal, where we offer it and you accept it. And that's the only way it could be done under the current bylaw framework. You're not demanding it of it, we're offering it to you as an additional benefit for the approval of the additional unit. That's the
Additional
way it
3
would work.
units.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good with that if you can.
So the way you would write it up is the applicant offered to make a contribution to the town's affordable housing trust or an equivalent fund, and the board accepts the offer, subject to, the approval of.
Karen?
All right, so I don't have a problem with that in concept. What I have a problem is, what you've always all complained about is you want some control over this money.
Right.
You want to have some way in how it's spent. And that's putting passing all your control to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Well, we don't care where it goes.
We do.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, can you make up a planning board affordable housing trust? I don't
Look,
know.
the treasurer here, or the finance director, Nancy Holt, can create a reserve gift account for affordable housing. And we can give it to the planning, so that the gift, the way it would be framed, would be to be spent at the discretion of the planning board for affordable housing purposes. We can qualify it that way.
All right. So
I think that's quite doable, isn't it?
yeah, well, I think some really good stuff came out of this meeting tonight, really. But we had some new information that's come in that needs to be incorporated. And it's 8 o'clock or
9 o'clock.
Or 9 o'clock, depending upon whatever clock you're looking at. Karen?
Could I just be heard on the issue of the surety issue? I think it's important to kind of revisit it. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I want to explain something about that. You know, the planning board has a long tradition under subdivision law and rules and regulations of receiving surety to complete streets and ways, water infrastructure, sewage infrastructure, drainage lots. And the reason you do that is because in most cases, the applicant or the homeowners at some point are going to ask that the streets and the way be accepted as public property. And you want to make sure that the work that you've approved gets done so that when it becomes offered to the town, you accept it. It's not the case in this type of a project. All of the infrastructure here is basically going underground, and it's right next to or underneath portions of the improvements here. All of that really has to be done at the beginning of this case. And we wouldn't even be able to build the buildings without those types of things in, because that's how it all fits in a construction sequence. And we're not opposed to the issue of surety, but what I'm trying to explain to you is that if you tell us, or we agree that we won't apply for an occupancy certificate until this work is substantially completed in accordance with the plans and reviewed by the board's peer review, you have complete control.
No, we don't. We have a building department that has a tendency to give out occupancy permits without our knowledge. And it's a real huge issue.
But I have it in my, in the letter, in the conditions, there's a list of stuff that says it has to get signed off by.
Doesn't matter. It's unbelievable.
I feel badly that's the circumstance, but now the applicant, so what that functionally means to the applicant, if you asked him to put in cash security, say the drainage infrastructure was $75,000 in the site work, we would literally have to go out and put up $75,000, then we would have to hire a site contractor, pay that site contractor another $75,000 plus engineering to get it done. It would take us 60 days maybe to get that money released from you, because you'd have to have an inspection, and we wouldn't be able to use that money. So we need twice as much money as we really need to get that project done. And it creates a financial hardship, and it would in all circumstances. And in the end, you're never going to take that money from us and you wouldn't complete this project, because if we're not doing that there, we're not building this project to begin with. I mean, because...
I should
Go ahead.
also mention is we don't just take surety because the town may at some time adopt a road or whatever. We take it also because a developer may get halfway through the infrastructure and go under and decide not to do anything and leave it sort of halfway undone, which is worse than finishing it off or tearing it out. And so the surety is there also to assure that we can make sure that we don't end up in a situation like that.
But in that circumstance, would you then...
I would agree it's a much bigger issue with a big subdivision than it is with sort of this fairly confined lot, right?
So...
But it's kind of it's a policy, right? We don't want to get stuck. We don't want the town to get stuck holding the bag with a mess.
But follow me through. We get, hypothetically, we begin this project, we start putting the stormwater infrastructure in the ground, Mr. McGill has financial trouble, and he stops completing this project. You have the money. Are you then going to go on private property and remove it with that money? You'd still need, you'd need authority to enter private property, or it just seems to me you'd never really actually spend that money to get it done. And I don't know, that's my problem. This is a condominium lot.
Well, imagine you've done that and you only did half of the stormwater. You had things dug up, there were holes all over the place, and next time it rained, it's a complete and utter mess, right? That's gotta get fixed, no matter whether there's financial difficulties or not,
We have
right?
insurance, I mean.
And that's really part of the intent, is to protect the town on that side.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I've had previous discussions with town council, not today on this matter. We have required it on other projects. I mean, I was not able to communicate with town council today. She was booked up with other things, so we can't resolve this issue
Tonight.
tonight. I mean, if they want us to look into this more, I think we have to we can look into this issue more, but you required it on 50 Country Way, and that's, right down the street.
All right, and I think too, we need to do some homework as far as the public benefit is concerned, and Mr. Grady has submitted some plans that we need to review. And I think we could go through all of this December 3rd and get it done.
Yeah, I would suggest that somehow, maybe we have a meeting with Bob. I can try to get Nancy and the town administrator, and we can try to hash out something.
Yes.
So that we come up with something that's acceptable to everybody for the public benefit, for for trying to put money into something for affordable housing.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. So, I mean, I really think that we accomplished a lot here tonight, all things considered,
And then we can figure out the surety
at another point, all right?
issue as well. So I guess if there's any other comments that they wanted to make on just on what draft is there so far.
All right, Bob, you wanted to talk about some,
I think I touched on the big ones. Let me excuse me, just see if I had anything else.
We can agree that the patio is not gonna be asphalt, right?
Yeah, well, we agree to that.
I don't like the fence with the door. We need to talk about that too.
A fence with the door on,
The gate
The gate.
to get through from the parking space into the patio.
That, at one time though, didn't we want to have a delineation from the
Yeah, but I think-
driveway to the
Yes, but I think it could be done with plantings or with something else besides.
bollards or something, like, you
Yeah,
know?
something. Not a gate.
just, okay.
No gate on the fence, a little trellis.
Well, we'll do just some arborvitae's or something, or plantings.
We don't
And
even
a
wood
particular
here.
comment about the fence, I couldn't hear everybody.
Oh, sorry. No, they want to put a fence at the front, at the end of the driveway off of Ford Place with a gate to the paver.
Paver patio. that's
Patio.
what- Yeah,
And I would rather see, whether it's bollards or something, no gate.
I can do a hedge or plantings, I prefer.
Some plantings or whatever,
But not arborvitae.
but not
No,
arborvitae.
arborvitae's? Okay. I don't-
We don't need any more deer food.
No?
We'll bring in the deer. Okay.
The other comments I had were not as, I think, critical, but one was, in the field, if they have to adjust something 6 inches, it's our experience that, like, the board's peer reviewer can say, okay, 6 inches is fine. If we could have that kept at discretion to give the peer reviewer the right to approve that if he's going to be out.
And I incorporated that in there.
And can I be giving benchmarks for the Chessier, whoever the engineer is for the town? Because if I'm like, say, like the last project we did with Merrill, they gave me.
Construction inspection.
Yeah, they said, okay, when the hole's dug for the drainage, I want to see it. When the top's covered, I want to see it. And so I know, so I'm just,
Subdivision rules and regulations.
but I'm not a subdivision.
I know, but we still require inspections for.
I understand.
Erosion control, pavement, all the typical inspections that you.
I understand that, but they typical building inspections, I'm talking about what you want to see from your, like, other benchmarks, so I know when to call him to come out and look at it.
Want them laid out.
Yeah, so I know, so because it's no point, it says, oh, he can come out there every week, well, if I'm not,
Doing
he
anything.
doesn't need to see a pile move from there to there, you know?
They don't come out, if they don't come out on a weekly basis. I mean, we put it in there because during times when you're digging the foundation, he may have to be out there or doing drainage. He may have to be out there twice in the same week.
Right, that's what I'm saying
But another week, he might not be out there at all.
Right, and that's why I'm trying to figure out benchmarks, so I know when to call him to go out there and look at those things. Because I may be doing something he want to see, and I don't know. So typically, they provide
I'll pull up the
benchmarks.
schedule, and we'll include
Yeah.
that in the working discussion.
Right, just make it a condition that they'll work together to come
Yes.
up with those benchmarks
Yeah.
before, because
We'll take it from the.
That's fine,
rules.
yeah.
All right. Do we have a motion somewhere? You lost it. Wonderful.
Well, the time is December 3rd at 7:30.
You need to sign it.
Yeah.
All right, move to, I'll entertain.
7 o'clock.
No, we got that other thing on first. December 3rd, we have something first.
Okay. Move to continue this public hearing to 7:30 on December 3rd, with time
Action on December 31st.
for action on December 31st. Is there a second?
7:30 on December.
All in favor?
Ms. Burbine?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. Bornstein?
Aye.
Ms. Lewis?
Yep.
Mr. Pritchard?
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor, unanimous.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll meet again.
We will see you again.
Again.
All right, thanks, Carol. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
The next item we have is Studley Farm vote surety reduction and street acceptance. All right, Karen, you want to speak to this?
We had a meeting out at Studley Farm the other day. The only thing, you're holding $1,300 plus accumulated interest in the guarantee account, and that was so the grass would grow. They reseeded in September. The grass is growing, so I would recommend that you return all the surety because the project is done. We received a certification today that I sent you all, excuse me, late in the day, that says that our engineer is certifying that the work is done. We've received all the other materials for the project. So I would recommend that you return the surety, and I would also recommend that you recommend to the town meeting that the road be laid out. We have the street acceptance Mylar here tonight for the board to sign. I have all the as-bills, and everything is the way that it should be. The only comment that the DPW had is they don't like your 20-foot street. So that's, I've been asked to pass that on, so I'm passing it on.
Well, thank you very much. We'll take it under advisement and move on. Okay. All right, Patty, go for it.
Oh,
So I don't know
glasses.
if Mr. Iacos
I don't see him, I don't know who, I'm not sure who.
Does he really need to be here?
No, I told, I mean.
I mean, that's silly.
I told him that was his decision.
Right. Okay.
I move to accept Joseph J. Iantoska's request as the manager of Fern Properties LLC to reduce the amount of surety being held for completion of the Benjamin Studley Farm definitive flexible open space development plan approved by the board on 1/30/2014 from $1,300 being held by the town treasurer to zero, plus the accumulated interest as Merrill engineers and the land surveyors agree seed germination has been slow due to the weather, but it is beginning to grow.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Ms. Burbine?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. Bornstein?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard?
Yes.
Thank you, all in favor, unanimous.
Patty?
I move that the planning board recommend to the Board of Selectmen in the 2020 special town meeting that the street of Studley Farm Road be laid out in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 82, Section 21 to 24, and be accepted by town meeting to become a public way in accordance with the layout plans dated July 27, 2020, and to sign the street acceptance plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Ms. Burbine?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. Bornstein?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yep.
Mr. Pritchard?
Yes.
Thank you, all in favor.
Oh, they're gonna get this straight. Wonderful. All right, now we have minutes.
Minutes, okay. I move to approve the meeting minutes for October 22nd, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Ms. Burbine?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. Bornstein?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard?
Yes.
Thank you, unanimous, all in favor.
Counting, Patty?
I move to approve the requisition of $103 to the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds for the recording of board signatures.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Yes.
Ms. Burbine? Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. Bornstein?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yep.
Mr. Pritchard?
Yes.
Thank you, unanimous, all in favor.
Okay, now we have liaison reports.
Not liaison anywhere.
Uh,
I can go.
Do you have anything?
I do.
right.
Nothing major. Well, one's kind of major, but you guys already know. I called into the Water Resource Committee meeting last week, I think, and kind of just listened in mostly. Nothing really major to report. They're still working on a couple of their initiatives. One being the water offset program, and then the other one is the regulations concerning private well use during water bans. They're both kind of could be litigious issues that they're trying to kind of figure out the best way to legally kind of come up with the rules, and then where would they live in terms of bylaw or water regulations. So these are projects they've been working on a while. They're still ongoing. And other than that, there wasn't too much. Lincoln Heineman came, I guess him and his neighbor are proposing a parcel of land to CPC in the West End, and they're trying to get a Water Resource Committee to kind of give them an endorsement on that, because I guess it's in the Water Resource Protection District and could be a good area for storage. And other than that, nothing major. The other thing to report, which everyone should have received today, is that the first draft of the master plan is written, and there's still some holes and there's lots of things that need to be added in and fixed up, but we're going to try to schedule an advisory committee meeting within the next couple weeks or so. Emily should have sent an email to everyone on the board. If you didn't get one today, let me know. But I think we're looking at the 19th of November, or the 23rd. Either way,
It's the 19th or the 23rd.
19th or 23rd. So if everyone could just reply on that, so we can pick a date, and then just start reviewing the master plan draft and coming up either track changes or write out your written comments, so we can kind of get things moving forward on that front. We're going to need a lot of help from everyone reviewing this and make sure we don't miss anything, make sure that it's the plan that we all want. That's all I have.
And you sent that out?
You should have received it. It should have come from Emily from Harriman, the consultant lead on the project.
I think she only sent it to the committee. I don't think she sent it to the planning board.
Oh, okay. Steve, I'll check. My advisory committee email list includes the full planning board. I'm not sure if she did, so let me check the list, and I'll make sure that everyone on the board gets it later tonight.
Oh, hold on a second, I might have, let me just. Emily,
Yes.
is that?
Yep.
Yep.
Can we just make sure, I think Bob is on the line, can we just make sure he's here?
Bob, are you here?
No?
He was at one point and I've lost him.
Okay, who's Chip?
Looks like everybody on the planning board, she's gonna send a link to download it, but I don't see Bob's name on it, so.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, he might not be. Okay, I'll make sure he gets that.
All
I'll
right.
add that, I'll add him.
Oh, there's Bob. There's Bob.
Hi, Bob.
He's muted himself.
Oh, I'm new.
Unmute yourself.
Hey, I'm just kind of sneaking around.
Yeah? Okay. So you'll get a copy of the master plan to look at, review, whatever, okay?
Yeah.
All right. And we'll be back on the 3rd of December. All right, I don't have anything to report. CPC doesn't meet until Monday night. And that's about it.
No, the only big doings is moving a phone pole in the harbor.
Oh.
I want to put a new phone pole in for Mulaney's elevator, so that's big doings.
Big doings in the harbor. All right. Planning and development.
Next time, we're going to be doing Zoom next week, so the meeting on the 12th will be Zoom. So we'll see, we'll hope that maybe tries to improve communication with the world on that. Our December meetings are the 3rd and the 10th, and at one of those meetings, we have to talk about zoning. Because the warrant is going to be open in December. I'm going to put in some placeholders, and then usually we have a public forum in January and public hearings in February for an April 12th town meeting. It's coming up quicker than you know it. There'll be even though the signed bylaw is on the warrant listed for the special town meeting, it will not be on the town meeting. There was
Time constraint.
There was some issue, time problems, screw up with not being able to get the ad in the paper. So we'll just ask that be referred to the planning board, but it will be on in the springtime. In North Scituate, we'll probably try to get that going again too for the spring as well.
Okay. Have you heard anything about the upcoming special town meeting, considering Governor Baker's new...
Oh yeah, we can't be out.
I have not heard. I've been invited to the moderators meeting.
So have I.
I'll go to the moderators meeting and see what they say there about, about how all that works. I mean, if everybody doesn't know, basically, we'll try to keep the meetings at 7, but if we have to move them to 6:30, we'll move them to 6:30 so that we can be done by 9:30.
Well, and with Zoom too, theoretically, most people will be at home.
Right.
Right.
With Zoom, most people will be at home, but, we'll just have to punt and play it by ear.
Do we have a consensus that everybody's going to go to town meeting? Yeah, you're not, probably no.
I don't know. Are you,
Steve, you won't be here.
you won't be at town meeting, will you, Steve?
What's that?
You're not going to go to town meeting, are you?
I guess it depends on if they are gonna manage it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, just a comment then, I just downloaded the draft master plan, it's all PDF, so we're not gonna be able to do any kind of redlining to it.
Okay, let me see if she can send it in Word.
I ended up writing a list of comments, but
Yeah.
Do the best you can.
I might be able to, I have a full Adobe, I might be able to pull it back.
All right, anything else from anybody?
No.
All right,
Well, then you'll check to see if they could send at least the base plan in Word?
Yeah, I'll check with her tonight to see if they have it in Word, and then
Okay.
I'll see if she can put that on that cloud program that they shared everything with, and then for people that want to track changes in Word, we can try to do that.
Okay, anything else?
Okay.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Ms. Burbine?
Yes.
Mr. Bornstein?
Yes.
Ms. Lampert?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yep.
Mr. Pritchard?
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
unanimous,
you.
all in favor?